What's up, everyone? Welcome back to District Baseball, District Nationals, episode 1.6.
I believe.
I never know. I
I'm
never know.
pretty
I
sure we're
think it's
1.6.
1.6. I think it's 1.6. 1.6 for District Nationals, our Nationals episode we do every single week, so we can leave the baseball, leave the Nats. But honestly, the Nats are kind of playing pretty well. We'll get into that. They kind of exercised some demons, so to speak, this past weekend. So plenty of interesting stuff to talk about. But first, Trey, what's going on?
Nick, I saw this team play last week, and I got the worst of it. Let's be honest. But
Yep, me
they
too.
also
Me
made a
too.
nice recovery so far against the Miami Marlins.
So far. So far.
So yeah, the sweep of the Dodgers, I kind of was like thinking like, whatever, it's the Dodgers, they're gonna sweep you. It happens. If we can come back and play well against a team that we're better, we are actually better than. That's something interesting to think about. The Nationals are the better team when it comes to facing Miami, and they have taken care of business so far. So good stuff there. And it's been kind of a weird. It's been like an amalgamation of all these different guys like Jacob Young and Trey Lipscomb and Ildemaro Vargas and Alex Call today. So a lot of weirdness going on with this Marlins series, but they've won all 3 games, so I can't really be upset about it.
Yeah, and that's the big one. Like the Dodgers series, we kind of talked about on District Baseball for those that listened to that episode as well. Appreciate you. But like the Dodgers are now playing like the Dodgers, right? So losing a series, let alone getting swept by them, not the biggest surprise, right? Especially even the blowout game. It's like the Dodgers are kind of known to do that, and the Nats are kind of known to give that up. So it wasn't the biggest surprise. To me, the big surprise is the way we handle the Marlins. Yes, the Marlins are really, really bad right now. But for whatever reason, the Marlins have been this team's kryptonite. So coming out and just taking care of business, beating the team you're supposed to beat 3 games in a row, it's tough to do in most sports, but especially baseball, especially over the course of 162. Like, it was kind of a promising sign because whatever reason just can't beat the Marlins, could not beat the Fish for so long, and they did it in multiple ways. They did it on pitching, but the bats also woke up a lot as well, and maybe that's kind of where
About time.
Right, the difference was between facing the Marlins this year and facing the Marlins in years past is like the Marlins basically entire rotation is on the injured list right now. Obviously Sandy Alcantara, but all of the injuries that happened just this year as well. So that kind of probably led to, or at least helped some of the turning of the tide and getting the bats going and actually winning some games against Marlins. But they also just won a Patrick Corbin start. Not because of Patrick Corbin,
Definitely
but
not.
the bats were just good enough to survive. So, it was kind of an impressive weekend. A lot of good. The thing I kind of want to start with before we really dive in is just the injury situation. We talked about it on District Baseball, and particularly with the pitchers, and obviously that struck the Nats too with Josiah Gray out. But the Nats position players are getting injured left and right as well, and that was something that hadn't really impacted them as much. Every team deals with injuries, but it didn't impact them as much last year, and they were super fortunate, and that's why you kind of saw the team really start to gel in July and August, because they had just been playing so well, and so well together, and they were healthy, so there wasn't a lot of change, and there was subsequently a lot of consistency. Whereas now there's a lot of different lineups, a lot of different guys moving around. We saw Trey Lipscomb get called back up in response to Lane Thomas's was it knee injury?
Knee or hamstring.
Yes, some lower body. I believe it was his knee. He doesn't require surgery, but he's going to be out for a couple weeks. So they call up Trey Lipscomb, which didn't really make sense. Because you're like, Trey Lipscomb doesn't play outfield. Well, their plan is to play Trey at first base so that Joey Gallo can move to the outfield. Solid plan, in my opinion. Like, Trey wasn't great at third base. In my opinion, the arm strength, it just was not there in my opinion. I think he's going to be a fine major leaguer, but it's going to be on the right side of the infield. And Joey Gallo, winner of 2 Gold Gloves in the outfield, you could do much worse in the outfield, right? So it's a solid plan. Then Joey Gallo gets hurt, like I believe it's his wrist injury. So then they call up. Who did they call? Oh, they had called up Alex Call. That's who it was. I was like, yeah. No wonder I couldn't, remember. I was just trying to erase that from my mind that Alex Call is back in the Nationals uniform. So it's just interesting to see Keibert Ruiz is now back, but he was on the injured list for like the better part of 2 weeks, dealing with an illness. So he's back, but he hasn't been swinging it all that well, so he needs to kind of knock off the rust and get back to it. But yeah, so they're just dealing with a lot of injuries right now, and it'll be interesting to see how sustainable any good stretch of baseball is, just because of all the moving pieces going on, and subsequently all of the different lineups going on. Like we've talked about over the years, like guys just do better when they have set roles within the lineup, but you kind of can't have a set lineup when you have so many moving pieces in terms of who is actually playing in that day's game.
Yeah, and it's just I'm curious to see, because there's been a lot of turnover, and today's lineup, I mean, they scored 12 runs, but if you actually read it, you're like, what am I looking at? Like, this is not a great lineup on paper, and I'm wondering if the fact that they hit a lot today is just because the Marlins are bad, or if it's because we are good. I think it's probably more so on the latter point. I think
it's the former.
Or the former, yeah.
You think we're good?
No.
Okay, I was gonna say.
No, got that mixed. Hell no. Let's not get it twisted. Yeah, I think the Marlins are bad. But yeah. I also think that they, you can only beat who's on your schedule, and they've taken care of business, and that's something that they have not done in recent years. Is just take care of a team that they're better than, mostly because there hasn't been many teams that they've been better than. But yeah, it's just, we've been kind of hitting at the lack of depth with this team, and now it's starting to show. But the depth guys have come up and kind of played okay so far. I'm just not sure how long it's going to last. But I do want to point out your pick to break out, which is Jacob Young.
Let's go.
Because
let's go.
Man, he's been so much better. He's been awesome
recently.
Yeah, he was great last week. All throughout the week, he's had multi-hit games in like 4 straight or something. And obviously, if he can just provide an average bat, or even slightly below average, his speed and defense are very much worth that trade-off. And he made a crazy double play happen. The Nationals turned 3 double plays this week from the outfield, which I don't know how often that happens.
It's impressive.
But that happened 3 times this week, and Jacob Young's was the most impressive catch out of all of them. And he can just go get him in center field. So if he's gonna be able to put up right now, before today, heading in, he was at a 106 WRC plus. That is excellent for what he brings with speed and defense. So I'm excited that he's playing well. I think he needs to be playing every day if they're not going to call up James Wood or Cruz yet. So because Eddie Rosario is, I've just disassociated him from this team in my mind. I'm just like, just play Jacob Young. Just Jacob Young, he's also hitting against righties as well as lefties. So it's not just a platoon thing. Like, he's been playing pretty much, he's been playing mostly this week. I think he might have been out. I think he was out the game that I was at, actually. That was the only game he was out this week. But he was playing kind of platoon versus lefties, but now he's been just hitting well enough that you have to play him against the righties too, and he's been good against them. So really excited to see what he's got, because the way he can run is super exciting on its own. So I'm not expecting him to ever be a power guy, but
no.
Right now he's getting on base 35% of the time. I'm cool with that.
Love that.
I'll take it.
And that's the thing. His current, you mentioned his WRC plus. I'm going to use a little bit more of a layman's term, but like his OPS is 775. For some of that profile, you will absolutely take that, because he's hitting 333, and he might not hit above 300 over the course of the year. It would make me look great if he did, but like, if you can just get kind of league average offense from him, he is an everyday player. He's without question an everyday player because of what he can provide. And if you look at someone like CJ's faster than, not by much, it actually is really close. He's faster than Jacob Young, but Jacob Young's going to end up having more stolen bases if they play the same amount of games because he's not hitting as many extra base hits.
Yeah, I know. CJ's always standing on second base.
Right. And so, like, CJ, I'm not blaming him for not having as many stolen bases as he was on pace for last year. I would much rather what he's doing currently. My only point is, like, just as much as a double, triple home run can get in a pitcher's head, having an absolute terror on first base that you only get 3 disengagements or whatever the rule is to get the guy out, or, like, keep him close, keep him honest, try to roll up a double play if you can, even because he's so fast. Like, that messes with the pitcher's mind and tempo and timing as well. So it's like just his presence, albeit of a different fashion, not of the power hitting kind, can be disruptive to opposing pitchers and opposing teams. And we're seeing that. Like, he's a really young guy too, and he had kind of a very honestly meteoric ascension through the minors. Like,
for sure.
Raised 3 levels in a single calendar year. Incredibly impressive. Now he's back, and I'm really excited to see if he can just hold on to this job to the point where when Victor Robles comes back, it's just like, okay, well, we want to play Robles, we want to play Young, but, like, it might be better for us to DFA Rosario and then just play them both at the same time. Right? Even though they have very similar profiles, it's like, all right, let's just have an outfield that can catch absolutely everything, throw guys out absolutely everywhere, and terrorize opposing pitchers all the time if they get on base. Like, that's not the worst idea to go with, just because this team, no matter what they do, no matter what the lineup looks like, lacks power severely.
And speed is the strength, for sure.
Yeah, they're like at the top of the league, if not at the top of the league. In stolen bases.
I think it's us and the Reds are like right there.
Yeah, they stole home today. Like, the guys that you wouldn't expect, like
Vargas.
Trey Lipscomb, Ildemar Vargas, they're stealing bases just because the Nats have, like, their specific team strategy, and it's working, right? So, Jacob Young just only provides to that. So it's really good to see him, really start to find his stride and see if he can't be kind of an everyday piece. My perfect situation for him was as that 4th outfielder. Mm-hmm. Not that you're, like, in a year or two when Cruz is up, not that you're going to need a defensive replacement in center field like they tend to do with, like, Stone Garrett, for instance. But, like, having Jacob Young is going to be exceptional for any sort of lineup you put out there. And if he's as a 4th outfielder, that's perfectly fine, because he's a really damn good 4th outfielder.
Yeah, he's my preferred 4th. When everything is, when everybody's up and, like, we have our ideal outfield, I'd love him to be the 4th guy, because
right,
he's proven that he at least has some skill with the bat. So if he has to pinch hit, you don't feel terrible about it. And he's the perfect pinch runner. He doesn't get caught stealing, and he's a great smart base runner, very smart base runner. And obviously the defense is excellent. Cruz being in the center probably means that you don't have to worry about that. But, he could play left or right for somebody who's maybe more of a hitter type, when they get in a late game situation where you want your defense. He's the perfect guy to have on the bench for that role, and he's the perfect guy to step up if there's an injury, because that's kind of what he's already done.
Right. Yeah, it's like he's the type of guy, again, we're projecting here a little bit, but, like, if you see him in the lineup and someone else gets a day off, you're not like, oh man, what the hell, we have to sit through this. Like, kind of what we have to currently do.
Yeah.
So, but let's shift gears to that kind of topic, because we are getting some of that now. And listen, everyone who knows us, I'm sure, follows us on Twitter and sees our reaction to these type of things. And we'll just start at the top with what we've already talked about. But Eddie Rosario is really bad. Really, really bad. It was a fine flyer. I was fine with the signing. I wasn't fine with him in center field, but I get why they were doing it, to try to put their best offensive lineup out there, so I was okay with it. I know he historically gets off to really slow starts. I don't know how much longer you can wait.
That's like, yeah. I'm
Like-
looking at his numbers right now.
Like, let's say when. Okay. So, Gallo, Lane Thomas, their injuries don't seem so severe, so they'll be back within a week or two. Lipscomb most likely goes back down. Call goes back down. If Robles comes back, which, who knows? Who knows? I think he'll be back soon-ish. Are you really going to send down Jacob Young? Right, and we just talked about Jacob Young, but, like...
If he's
are
playing
you
like
going
this...
to punish a guy? Right, are you going to punish a guy for performing really, really well as an everyday player by demoting him? I would hope not, right? I get why you're trying to see what you have in Rosario to see if you can flip him, but, like, at the same time, you have a good player already. So that'll be interesting to see. But even right now, it's like, how can you justify giving Rosario playing time over anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, there's waiting
awful.
for a guy to get going, and then there's whatever the hell Eddie Rosario is doing. Like, this is like, he has a negative 12 WRC plus, and it's almost May. I mean, and he's been playing like almost every day. So this isn't like, it's not like a really small sample size. Like, I mean, it is technically because we're only in 1 month, but like compared to the rest of the league, he's played like enough, and it's not going well. He doesn't provide defensive value. He doesn't provide base running value, and if he's not going to hit, especially at all, I mean, like, nothing. He's done nothing, and I'll give him some leeway. Like, he's hit some balls hard that have gotten caught, and that'll happen. But like, this is pretty bad, dude. 094 batting average, sub 100. Like, I know batting average isn't everything, but even Joey Gallo is out hitting him in the batting average department.
Right, that's saying something.
Yeah, and Joey Gallo has like a 120 batting average. So,
yep.
Rosario, he's gotta go when we get some of these guys. Like Stone Garrett also, he's on a rehab assignment. He could come up. You can't keep Eddie Rosario on your team over Stone Garrett right now, like, especially with the way Stone finished last year and with the lack of power that this team. I mean, Eddie Rosario isn't providing any power. He has one. He hit a homer in the first game, and I think he has like one extra base hit since.
I was gonna say, if you told me his only hit of the year was that opening day home run, I would believe you.
I mean, it's like,
I would believe you.
He's really done nothing of value. What are you doing back there? Sorry, my cat's being annoying. All right, I'll let you out.
It's all good. If you see me looking up, I'm watching the Caps game.
Yeah,
so,
we're super casual mode here on.
Yeah,
because we had it was a good week to be. It was a semi good week to be a Nats fan.
Yeah.
So we're chilling.
All right. So the other one, and this is kind of a fun exercise, so I kind of want to like go down this rabbit hole a little bit. Again, we're projecting health, which may never happen for the Nats or any team around baseball. But, like, Joey Meneses, I called this to an extent in, late February, early March? I said on the show I would not be surprised if we see...
You did.
Yeah, if we see a really, really, really bad regression from Joey Meneses. And so I'll say this. Like, he had his moments throughout the week. My thing is... like a well-placed 76-mile-an-hour single could easily be an out a majority of the time. And it's hard to justify that being the best-case scenario. Like, he had one double early in the year where he smoked it. It was like the hardest hit ball of his career or whatever, like 100 and something miles an hour. But all of his singles are like sub 90 miles an hour, and that's just like not a recipe for sustained success. He was, I guess Riley Adams went 0 for 4 today, but Joey Meneses went 0 for 6 today. 0 for 6. Like, he can make contact. Like, he's kind of the Darnell Cole's poster child. Like, he will just kind of put balls in play to put balls in play. But, like, when he's your DH, when he's your 4-hitter, what the hell? So, like, you know, if we're going to have that conversation with Rosario, we kind of need to have that conversation with Meneses. Like, I get he had his sort of Linsanity run a couple of years ago, but at what point do we just face facts and DFA the guy with a sub 600 OPS. Right now, I get it because not everyone's healthy, but like, again, when you have good players that are performing, you shouldn't punish them by demoting them to AAA or whatever. Like, when Stone Garrett comes back, he needs to be an MLB player. He can't be in AAA. Like, like, he needs to be up, right? So maybe you boot out Rosario for that. When Victor Robles comes back, and I'm saying this about Victor Robles, anyone who knows my history knows I hate Victor Robles. When he comes back, he needs to be an MLBer. When Lane Thomas, Joey Gallo, they're definitely going to be MLBers. Like, there's no debating that. But, like, you're going to have to make these tough decisions, and I would hate to see good players get punished just because Davey is protecting his guys. So it'll be really interesting to see if Joey Meneses gets any sort of hot seat, I guess, so to speak, because even through all of his struggles, it's always seemed like his spot has always been safe, and that's really frustrating when he's this team's basically everyday DH.
Yeah, and it would be different as well if he was 24 and struggling.
Yeah.
Because then you're like, okay, well, he's a young guy. He's not. He's 32. Like, it's put up or shut up time at this point. So, yeah, I mean, and, you know, even with saying all that, he has, let me do my math here. I think, what is it, 81 points, or no, 85 points higher WRC plus than Eddie Rosario. And he has a 73 WRC plus, so that should tell you what Eddie Rosario is really doing. But yeah, you can't have a DH type that slugs 277. It's just not going to work. We can't just
He's not good defensively, so that's not an argument.
Yeah, he doesn't. There's no Dom Smith argument here for Joey Meneses. Dom Smith was actually better than this. So that's
right.
Really bad.
That's the level we're at.
Yeah.
And even like Joey Gallo, like no one has room to complain about Joey Gallo. Everyone knew what they were getting into, right?
We can still complain. I'll complain.
Okay, you can complain, but you can't be surprised.
Yeah, there you go.
Joey Gallo is exactly who we thought he was, right? And he's injured right now, and hopefully he comes back and you know, starts hitting a little bit better. But like, he's doing exactly what we thought: playing good defense, hitting the occasional home run, striking out a lot.
Yep.
Like, that's who Joey Gallo has been basically his entire career. Like, no one can be surprised. So it's like, you can hold out hope that maybe a team trades for him just out of name recognition, gives you a 27th ranked prospect that you hope to develop and at least bolster your farm system a little bit. Like, maybe. But Joe Meneses isn't getting that for you. He has no pedigree to, like, fall back on. So I only bring that up because I don't know what's going to happen when these guys start to get healthy and who the odd man out is.
Yeah, it's going to be some weird roster moves for sure.
Knowing Davey Meneses is going to be like one of the more safer guys, and that's frustrating.
Yeah.
All right, let's switch gears. Go ahead. Did you have something else?
No, I was going to mention, first of all, today's game, which was nuts. 7-0 comeback, which I feel like we should probably highlight that just because.
Yeah,
I know it's the Marlins, and like, listen, when I was watching the entire time, in my head I was like, dude, the Marlins suck. So this is not 100% just the Nationals being good, but like, you know, a 7-0 comeback. I don't care who you are. That takes some mental fortitude just to grind that out. And Nick Senzel.
Yep, that's where
has randomly become Barry Bonds.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand what's going on, but Nick Senzel all of a sudden is just hitting homer after homer. He's got 5 homers already in 10 games. That is not a normal pace for him. That is not a normal pace for many guys. So I don't know how sustainable this is. Probably not at all. But it's really funny, and it's helping us win games. He had 2 homers today, and that included the go-ahead, which ended up being the difference in the game. He got us back in the game with a homer, and then he gave us the lead with a homer. I don't know. I'm assuming that you are probably going to say the same thing, but that this is not going to last. But what do we think about Nick Senzel right
now? If the power does last, you got to trade him.
Oh, for sure.
I will say that. I will say that. Like his batting, basically he's only hitting a home run right now, which cool.
Yeah,
I'll take.
167
But like,
BABIP. So.
right. Like he's only hitting 222, but he has 5 home runs in like a week. So he's on pace to shatter his career home run total. He had 13 home runs in 104 games last year, which is at not a terrible pace, like 17 home run pace, but he's on pace to shatter that right now. So it's like if he is one of those guys who he's not like a late in his career guy, like he's 29, so he still has some quote unquote prime years left. But we see some guys every so often, Joey Votto being a perfect one, where it's like they were contact profile guys for so long that they kind of sacrifice that and just start trying to hit home runs. So I'm not saying that's what Senzel is trying to do. That'd certainly be the opposite of what the Nationals' philosophy and Darnell Cole's philosophy is. But let's just say, for shits and giggles, that's what Nick Senzel's trying to do. It's working. Trade him.
Yeah,
like
no.
it just he's a one year deal. He's never done this before. If you get a team to bite, regardless, not entirely regardless, but regardless of what the offer is, if it's a reasonable offer, take it. Because this is more value than what he signed for, like $2 million.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's outperforming that deal. You gotta trade him.
Yeah.
But it's really cool right now. So hopefully hopefully he continues some semblance of being an above average offensive guy, because he's honestly never done that in his career. Even in his better years, like his OPS was never above like 640.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. That's why I'm like pumping the brakes on thinking this is going to continue, or any semblance of this will continue. But it is nice to see that he's been able to barrel some balls up. So you never know. Maybe he is a change of scenery guy, and he'll actually be worth something by the trade deadline. But I just today's game was just funny because I'll be honest, I was crapping all over Nick Senzel signing for the entire offseason. I thought this was going to be horrible. So he's making me eat it right now, and you know what? I hope that he continues to.
Nobody will ever be able to change my mind to the fact, or to the idea that the Nats only signed him because he's best friends with Lane Thomas.
Maybe
nobody will ever
like,
be able to change my mind.
I'll take the homers as a bonus. I
No,
guess.
I will too. But I'm not giving anyone credit, because I know he was only here as like a nepotism hire or nepotism signing.
He's a nepo baby.
Sorry, like it doesn't mean he's not performing well. It's just I know that's how we got here. So
yep,
sorry,
I can't disagree.
Yeah, the last thing I want to talk about is just the pitching in general. We talked about Mitchell Parker last week. He had a fine start. Like he got into a little bit of trouble. More than we're used to with his command. Caps just scored. I'm very hyped. A little bit more trouble with his command. He only lasted 4 innings. Gave up a little bit more contact, like solid contact hits. Balls are dropping. I was trying to avoid that saying, but like for lack of a better word,
they're touching grass.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. But he pitched fine. 4 innings. I think he only gave up 1.
He grinded at it. It was a grind, but like
right.
I'm really impressed with his mental so far.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's definitely been able to navigate some tougher moments, and
right.
and at least put up a respectable outing.
Right, and speaking to that, the theme of what we've been talking about, of like when everyone gets healthy, when Josiah Gray comes back, I think everyone thought it would be Trevor Williams, for 2 reasons. 1, he sucked last year as a starter, and 2, he has a history of success as a reliever. But like he's pitching well right now too.
Can't really move him right now, I guess.
Fine. So it's like, do you go 6-man, which they've done before? Wouldn't mind that, but I don't think, as it stands right now, you can demote Parker. Right? Innings in just managing his workload will be a factor, but you can do that up here by going to a 6-man rotation. So it'll be interesting to see. But the other option, and I think everyone's kind of ready for it at this point, is just DFAing Patrick Corbin.
Just pull the trigger, yeah.
At this point, you have replacements, right? You have guys that can fill that spot. Whereas like last year, for instance, you took a chance on Jake Irvin and it worked, right? But like beyond Jake Irvin, it was rough. So if you couldn't really get rid of Patrick Corbin if he was eating innings, which he did last year, he was bad, but he ate innings. Now he's not doing that, at least quite to this. He lasted 4 innings against the Marlins.
Yeah, and he
like,
realistically should have been out of the game already. The only reason he was there was because it was 7-0, and as soon as the Nats scored, that was basically it for him. So
yeah, so it's like, Parker can fill that role. You're going to get Cavalli back at some point, which you might want to go 6-man rotation then, right?
Rutledge is also still an option as well.
Right, so Adon is always an option. They have no problem throwing him to the Wolves. So it's like, this is the last year of Corbin anyways. Just bite the bullet.
Bite the bullet, like, exactly. I was going to say
I honestly think, I think fans would respect the team so much more. Even if you're already a fan of... Right.
In reality, they can also spin it as a W still, because he was on the World Series team, so...
Right. Even if you're a fan of Mike Rizzo and how he manages and operates and all that stuff, I think everyone would have respect for him and the team if they just accepted their loss and moved on, and really just passing of the torch, whatever you want to call it. So I'm kind of hoping they do that. I've been hoping they do that for a while. So that'll be interesting to see. But one of the more underrated parts of this is Derek Law has been really, really good, and he was kind of just a last minute, here you're in the rotation kind of guy. When he's not pitching 3 days in a row, he's pretty solid. So 3 ERA, 2 scoreless innings today, got the win, really steadied the ship, and it couldn't come at a better time with guys like Jordan Weems, who I know you're a big fan of, struggling. Tanner Rainey, another DFA candidate.
Yeah, so I feel bad, but yeah.
Tough, real tough there. Matt Barnes has not looked good. Harvey, a little bit up and down, but I have no concerns about him. Finnegan's been exceptional as of late, honestly. And that's...
Yeah, he turned it around
Kyle
for sure.
Finnegan. Yeah, so it's like... anyways, Derek Law has been great. And
Dylan Floro's been really good too, actually.
Dylan Floro, I was like, I knew I was going somewhere else with that.
I didn't realize his ERA is only a .75. That's pretty dang good.
Floro's been great. So it's like the Nationals have had these kind of low-level signings that have worked pretty well. It's just, what are they going to do to capitalize on them? Are they going to flip them? I don't see an extension candidate off the top of my head. Someone you just signed for like a 1 year, 2 year extension.
Yeah.
I think all these guys should be moved if possible. And I get it. Like, right now we're 13 and 14 effectively in the playoff race. Like, we don't need to be thinking about selling pieces, but we also need to be realistic.
Yeah, we won't be there by the time
we're still 2 years away at a minimum. So I just want to put that out there. Jesse Winker is still overall solid, but he is cooling off a little bit. So it's like, man, I hope he sustains something in May. So like early June, just pull the trigger.
Yeah, he hammered a grand slam yesterday. That'll help alleviate some.
Yeah,
that was kind of our point last week.
He's fine. Yeah, he's fine. I just know it's gonna drop down incrementally here and there.
Yeah, and our point last week that we mentioned for anyone who didn't listen was just basically when the top of this order isn't performing, it can get pretty rough. Although they did get more production from across the lineup this past weekend against Miami. In that Dodgers series, CJ and Jesse and Luis didn't really have their best series, and it showed because nobody else really stepped up. So, it's going to be a depth thing for the lineup. When you have Jacob Young, who's now hitting well at the bottom of the order, that helps. Trey Lipscomb had a really good week. That also helps. But, yeah, definitely need to get consistent throughout the order. That's definitely the biggest flaw. But other than that, I can't really say I'm that upset with where the team is right now. 13-14 is definitely better than I thought. And they've managed to somewhat slay the demon of the Miami Marlins this week. I mean, there's still plenty of matchups left this year, but you got to take care of business, and they did. So that's at least a positive step for this squad, I think.
And a necessary one. They needed to get something right because it is a tough stretch coming up. They're at Texas this week. Then they're home against the Blue Jays. They have a day off, and then they're home against the Orioles. And then they travel to Boston, which I think we talked about it last week. Boston's more pretender than contender, but like their pitching's really good.
Yeah, they're playing pretty well right now.
And
that's
so
a tough
it's
stretch
like,
for sure.
Yeah, so it's going to be a tough stretch. We'll learn a lot about the Nats as currently constructed over the next 2 weeks. The next week in particular with the Rangers and Blue Jays coming up. But they're gonna need their lineup to step up, and yeah, it's early. Yeah, they got some key guys on the shelf right now, but I don't think it's unreasonable to start thinking about those tough decisions, right? Trying to think ahead a little bit, because guys will get healthy, and there's going to be odd men out, and you got to decide if it's AAA, even if that's even an option. They might be out of options completely. Or if it is release, right, and you're just going to cut your losses and let the kind of best 26 guys rock. So it'll certainly be interesting to see. But we do this every week. How do you think the Rangers series plays out?
The Rangers series, well, I haven't looked at the matchups, so I can't tell based on that. But
yeah, let's peek.
Their offense, the Rangers' offense, it's been a little cooled off, in recently, so I'll at least give us one. I'm probably gonna go with a Rangers two game wins in that one. I think it's a 3-game set, if I'm not mistaken. Sometimes those interleagues are
it is
weird. So I'll give us one win.
I forgot
there.
We play the Marlins tomorrow night.
Yeah, no, yeah, it was like a weird wraparound 4-gamer.
Right, yeah. Normally
I
series
think
always I forgot about
is
that.
Gore going tomorrow? No,
I'm
tomorrow's
trying to
Irvin.
look at the matchups, but this setup is...
Yeah, because Gore pitched.
Yeah,
Wednesday,
bad
right?
radio here.
Yes. weird series. That
I believe
ends on a
Irvin is going tomorrow.
Yeah. So the Nats going for the sweep tomorrow. When this comes out, that will have already happened. So do they sweep? I'll ask you. Do they sweep tomorrow?
I think they do. I think the Marlins are just that bad.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. The Marlins, because if the Marlins couldn't win today with a 7-run lead, then I don't know if they can at all. So, yeah, let's get a 4-game sweep. When's the last time the Nats have done that? I don't know off the top of my head, but it's probably been a while. But
Tuesday's
the Rangers,
game against the Rangers.
I was going to say the Rangers series.
Tuesday's game against the Rangers is really interesting because Gore versus John Gray, who's been off to a good start. So that'll be kind of interesting just because that's when you have Mackenzie Gore in the mound, that's like your most winnable game. But you're going up against a pretty solid pitcher on the other side. So I'm actually going to go Rangers sweep. Just
Rangers
because
sweep.
I think it'll be close. It'll be closely contested. I'm not going to say they're going to get the doors blown off them, but I don't think the matchups necessarily fall in their favor. And they're getting Gray and Eovaldi in this series.
Yeah, they get nasty Nate on that ender. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
And he's been nasty this year, for sure.
Yep.
Maybe that game against the Heen Dog right in the middle is the one they can attack.
Yeah. So maybe there you go. There's your one of the three. So maybe it is 2 of 3. But we will be back next week to talk about it and all the other things that happen over the course of the week. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at DistrictBSB, YouTube, and TikTok at District Baseball. Trey at Reverse2Rs, who has this, myself, the Coach Moose. Certainly appreciate you listening. Got to wrap this up. And we will be back next week. And in the meantime, let's go Nats.
Let's go Nats.